Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lakeville Planning Board to order. It is Thursday, January 25th, 2024 at 7 p.m. We are meeting at the Lakeville Police Station Meeting Room. For the record, is anybody else filming this meeting or recording it besides LakeCAM? Being that nobody else has responded, I'll proceed to the second item on our agenda. Kathy, I'm sorry, I haven't even fanned through this. Do we have the public meeting notice for 24 Bedford in here?
It was in the packet. That's just what didn't make it into the packet.
Yeah, I have new packet, old packet. So I'm going to read the public hearing notice into the record. The Lakeville Planning Board, pursuant to the Lakeville zoning bylaw, section 6.7, will hold a public hearing on Thursday, January 25th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at the Lakeville Police Station, 323 Bedford Street. The purpose of the public hearing will be to receive information and public comment on the following site plan review application. For 2 and 4 Bedford Street, the applicant Twin Boys LLC seeks site plan review and approval for a proposed contractor bay site plan and associated site improvements. So at this time, I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries and public hearing is open. And now at the applicant's request today, they have requested that we continue the public hearing until our next meeting, which is February 8th. So I make a motion to continue the public hearing until 7 p.m. at February 8th here at the Lakeville Police Station Meeting Room.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
So, sir, is that why you were here as well? Okay, I apologize, but went through this with these fine folks also. Yeah, they had requested a continuance at earlier this afternoon. They needed to gather more information, whatever they needed to do. So because the public hearing was posted, we still opened the hearing and continued it for a formality because they did all their mailings. You received one obviously as an abutter in the mail. You won't receive any of those anymore because the hearing has been opened. So I would recommend that you come to the February 8th meeting at 7 p.m. Or if you wanted to call the planning office, Thursday afternoon, probably around 4 o'clock. Is that reasonable, Kathy?
Yep.
Usually the applicant, if they're going to continue, they'll continue by 4 o'clock. So you don't waste your time, but you speak to Kathy and she'll be able to tell you just so you don't, come for nothing, but she'll also be able to tell you, yeah, it's still on. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is continued site plan review hearing for 156 County Street, which at the last meeting we approved the plan, but we needed to draft conditions and hopefully approve those.
Mr. Chairman, that wasn't on the agenda to vote at the last meeting, so you're gonna have to re-vote that. Because typically you would approve it when you did the conditions, so I didn't put to vote, so you're gonna have to re-vote that.
On the last one.
Right.
Yeah. So that said, now I think I have like 5 sets of conditions in front of me. So Kathy had done a good job of going through and basically taking the template that was left with us by the town planner and assembling a set of conditions. And then Michelle and I had sat and kind of gone through those and made some changes. Then both sets were circulated back to the building commissioner for his review. He made some edits. And so I believe this copy, and now I have something in front of me, this is the latest version, which still, in the last review, it needed a couple of minor revisions. But I wanted to go through those conditions with you. So we have the beginning body of the site plan approval has the fact that it was a site plan review, dates of the meetings, description of the property, description of the improvements that they're making. And then as far as the conditions, number one, the expansion, improvements, facilities, amenities, building elevations, and alterations shown on the site plan, site development plans for 156 County Road dated October 30th, 2023, last revised on January 8th, 2024, drawn by Greenman Peterson Incorporated, GPI, 44 Stiles Road, Suite 1, Salem, New Hampshire, zip code, last revised on January 8th, 2024, are incorporated as a requirement and conditions of this approval. So that's sort of a standard condition. Does anybody have any concerns, comments about that one as drafted?
No.
Next, condition number two, the applicant shall provide a performance guarantee in the amount of no less than $10,000 per acre of disturbance to secure the completion of all required fixtures, appurtenances, amenities, improvements, including but not limited to landscaping, drainage, and stormwater management system, pavement installation and striping, ADA compliance, and an as-built plan, which then there's the note, needs discussion. Is that on?
No,
Am I reading from the wrong one?
the new
Yeah.
packet that she just handed out has the most recent. I think, is it the highlighted?
I think this is it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think this is it. All right, I'm gonna go back and stop me when I'm wrong again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number one, improvements to facilities, amenities, alterations shown, site plans for 156 County Street dated October 30th, 2023, revised January 8th, 2024, drawn by Greenman Peterson, Salem, New Hampshire, and building elevations for 156 County Street are incorporated as a requirement of the condition of this approval. We agree on that one?
Yep.
Number two, prior to issuance of building permit, the applicant shall provide a performance guarantee in the amount of no less than $10,000 per acre of disturbance to secure the completion of all required fixtures, appurtenances, amenities, improvements, including and but not limited to landscaping, drainage and stormwater management system, pavement installation, striping, ADA and AAB compliance, and as-built plan. Anybody have any discussion on that? Number three, as-built plans or stamped affidavit shall be submitted to the planning board and building department after construction is complete and prior to the release of performance guarantee. Anybody have any concerns with that condition? Any release of performance guarantee by the planning board due to substantial completion does not constitute final approval, and any items not fully completed would constitute a zoning violation and subsequent enforcement. Just make my own comment on that. It's not for a change, but just as a clarification of intent with discussion from the building commissioner. When we are often confronted with an applicant may want their bond released because they've completed everything, they're ready for their occupancy, but it's November and they just need to plant grass around the drainage areas and they haven't grown yet. So we would call that substantially complete, release the performance guarantee, but if they don't seed that grass, it doesn't come in, it's the zoning violation because it's not completed as part of this document. So there is enforcement even if we release this, the bond prior to 100% completion, as long as we're substantially satisfied with where they're at, and it can be enforced afterwards by zoning. Number five, any deficiencies that may occur after submittal of final as-built plans or stamped affidavit in sidewalks, paved areas, catch basins, or any other areas that may affect vehicular or pedestrian or public safety is the sole responsibility of the applicant or property owner and shall be remedied at owner's expense. Good? During construction, County Street shall be kept free of mud, dirt, debris, from site construction
I'm sorry.
appropriate erosion controls shall be installed and maintained to prevent off-site runoff. Everybody good with number 6?
Yep.
Number 7, the conditions of this site plan approval shall be added to the final set of approved plans submitted to the planning board for signatures. Good with that? All conditions in this approval shall be in addition to the conditions set forth by the Conservation Commission in relation to the Wetlands Protection Act, and any overlap in conditions, the stronger conditions shall supersede. Good? 9, construction of the site shall be limited, construction of the site. Should that read, construction hours? Limited to 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturdays, and no work on Sundays and federal and state holidays. During construction, all local, state, and federal laws shall be followed regarding noise, vibration, dust, and blocking of town roads. The applicant shall at all times use reasonable means to minimize inconvenience to residents in general area. On that beginning of that, should it say on-site, construction on-site, rather than of?
Yeah, oh, like, what is it? Within?
We can change it going forward. Definitely, I don't think
Yeah.
it really matters significantly though.
Number 10, at the discretion of the authorized agent of the building department during construction, all necessary measures shall be installed, including but not limited to signs, fencing, and other barriers as required to ensure public safety and limit the site access to the public during construction. If at any time a lapse in construction lasts from more than a period of 60 days, the applicant shall notify the building department. Everybody good with that one? Number 11, the applicant or successors are required to maintain the stormwater management system. Catch basins shall be cleaned at least yearly or more often if required in the operation and maintenance plan. Failure to maintain the stormwater management system will be considered a violation of this approval. In the event of a maintenance failure, the applicant shall be provided notice and the reasonable opportunity to cure such deficiency. The applicant's failure to cure such deficiency in maintaining the drainage system will be considered a violation of this approval. Upon request, stormwater system maintenance reports shall be submitted to the planning board. Good?
You put a limitation of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days.
Well, no, because of the new stormwater, the permitting, the MS4 stuff that they put out, they're becoming pretty serious. The state's becoming pretty serious. Like if those systems fail and it creates discharge onto other properties, that's a problem. So if the system doesn't work properly because they just didn't clean the catch basin or the retention pond, so there's no recharge, it's their failure, and it should be ongoing in perpetuity, just to make sure that they maintain their drainage.
Okay.
Should the planning board have concerns with the level of lighting intensity of the lights or lighting spillage onto abutter properties or the street, the board reserves the right to require the applicant to adjust the level of lighting, the type of lighting fixtures, or the location of individual lights to match the photometric plan and comply with the Lakeville outdoor lighting bylaw. Good? Number 13, if applicable, the applicant shall obtain a street opening permit from Mass Highway or applicable local approval through Department of Public Works. All work within the public right-of-way shall be properly cut, patched, and sealed, infrared or overlaid with pavement as required by the proper permitting agency. So we're just ensuring that they go through the proper means to get a permit for a curb cut. Number 14, all signs installed on site shall comply with Lakeville sign bylaw. Number 15, handicapped access and facilities shall comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act and Mass Architectural Access Board standards. Number 16, any proposed changes from the approved site plans or additional site work deemed substantive by the building commissioner shall be presented for review by the planning board. The board shall determine if there is a need for a public hearing and new or modified site plan, and shall then act accordingly on the changes. Approved revisions shall be illustrated on plans and submitted to the board. All site work must be completed within 18 months of the issuance of a building permit, or the applicant shall return to the board with a schedule for completion. Number 18, site plan approval shall lapse if construction is not commenced within 24 months from the date of approval. So if they don't start,
Yeah.
they've abandoned the project and they have to come back if they want to start 3 years later. Number 19, a certified copy of this decision and the approved site plan shall be recorded in the chain of title for the property at the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. So that's all the conditions that we put on this. Any comments on any of them or concerns?
No.
Michelle, did you pick up where, I didn't review what Nate had lined out for a couple of changes?
Yeah, it was black instead, it was listed as block instead of map. It was listed as map black instead of map block. And then the symbol for section eliminates the need for the words section, so they were minor.
So after 19, the second paragraph, it's redundant, section 270.6.
Yeah, so the copy that Kathy brought does have the corrections that Nate made, it looks like.
So that's not a redundancy in the second paragraph? Oh, I'm not even reading that same copy again.
Yeah, you might have a different, you might
I
have
have to, I
another
have
one.
to have like 5 of them now, I guess.
Yeah, I think, look right in front of you. Have it?
Got 3 more.
Okay. It's gotta be one. One of them.
Those are the 3 to sign.
Okay.
These are the proper ones? Okay. So the one I read from was correct, it just needed those minor changes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so procedurally, Kathy, if everybody's good with this, motioning to close the hearing, approve the site plan, and these conditions.
Approve with conditions, you can just vote like that.
Conditions is all, we don't have to include the plan? Because
No,
you said it,
approving-
vote,
Approving the plan with the conditions
Yeah.
discussed.
any other discussion from the board?
Can we just note that last little section? I don't know if you wanted to read it, just because we added this, and I think it, to any other boards, committees
Oh,
that,
yeah, yep.
um,
So in bold, third paragraph after condition 19. The planning board approval covers site plan review elements and gives no determination on wetlands, water supply, or any other disciplines under the jurisdiction of other boards, committees, commissions, departments. The applicant agrees to return to the planning board if any issues, changes, or need for variance arise after this approval date.
Mhm.
So basically what we're saying there is oftentimes we may give a conditional approval based on them going back and getting the Board of Health approval or Conservation Commission. Usually we try to catch those, but sometimes the Board of Health, it's not quite the same land use type of board, so we don't have that. And often we rely on an applicant to say, yep, they've approved the plan, and
Yeah.
then they go back and change it.
yeah,
So we added that language there just as a little disclaimer that,
right. So that way, anybody else who sees the plans doesn't have the excuse to say, well, planning board's already approved
Yeah.
it, because we're not making any claims.
right. So that said, I make a motion to close the public hearing for 156 County Street site plan review and approve the site plan and conditions as drafted.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So I'm gonna be able to sign 3 of these here tonight, Kathy?
You,
The right three?
Hmm?
The right three?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Item 3 on the agenda. Appoint a Serped representative. So as you guys know, Nora had, resigned from the board, actually, just in time, her seat's up for, it made possible that it could go for the election and somebody could actually fill her role in this current election cycle. That said, Nora was our Serped representative. At the last meeting, we had discussed Michelle filling in at least for the time being, and tonight we need to actually make that official. Michelle, just so we all understand, what's your expectation for being the Serped representative from a time standpoint?
I'm
want-
happy to take this on until the board is full, and at that point, if we wanna revisit it, that's fine. If somebody else is interested, if not, then I have no problem continuing on. I did find it very, very informative last night, so.
Good, all right. So I'll make a motion to appoint Michelle, the planning board Serped representative.
Second?
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And I do have this for you to sign.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for
Hold us,
doing that.
just her.
Yeah.
Oh.
Everybody signs or just?
No,
me?
just you, I think, right?
Sure. We'll work on that again before.
Yep, just me.
It's more of information.
I mean,
You guys just entertained?
you'll work
Okay,
when it comes to-
excellent. Love to have it.
Leave, leave.
Not at all,
No,
no.
Take over.
If you don't like it,
Yeah,
audience.
that's-
No,
We love it.
She has to blame.
Uh,
Yes, I mean, I do it.
In fact, slow night, if you have any questions, just raise your hand, I'm happy to answer them as we go along. So next item on the agenda, number 4, is to discuss Serped hours and a possible vote. Michelle, I'm gonna let you speak to this.
Okay, so I spoke with Taylor from Serped in regards to the housing production plan. She forwarded me information that came in to the town literally a day after we had voted to send it off to the state. So that information was actually advice from the state saying that in order to designate that landfill parcel that we had approved, they want to see the feasibility of that site. And so at first she said she thought it would take, 40 hours. So I called her immediately and was like, we have, planning board has 20 hours, select board has 20 hours, how far could you get with 20? And she said, Serpent wants you to get it done. I know you want to get it done. The state wants you to get it done. She said, if you can put in the application for those 20 hours, we can start with that. If we find that we need more, we could potentially take it from the next year's Serpent hours, which come up in July. So it's not too far off.
Okay, so it goes.
So it sounds like they can get at least a good jump on it. I'm hoping that maybe they can get it done in that timeframe. That way we can have it complete and send it off.
Get that turned in.
So I was hoping we could just, approve to send in the application for the 20 Serpent hours. And, I did mention to her, that overlay of the zoning map with the current uses, and she said that that would be real quick, so she can do that as well.
She'll roll that in if she can into the same hours.
Yeah, so if we can get an approval for that.
Did you have something, Kathy?
yeah, so I had, brought that to the new interim administrator,
Yeah?
and he hasn't brought that to the selectmen yet, just so you know, so.
So
They
what,
haven't approved that.
so I asked Lorraine, so she's the Serpent rep,
Yeah,
so she said that it doesn't need to go any further than planning board because we have 20 hours and they have 20 hours.
It's only a.
no, I don't mean that. I mean, if they're gonna do all this work on the housing production plan, it still has to be approved by the selectmen, so they might wanna, approve those sites before you continue.
So it did, so the email from the state said right in the body that no further approval was needed at that point.
I mean, I have something that says that the selectmen still have to approve the final report, so if they're,
I don't know, the state was,
Yeah,
said that
Okay,
it was
well,
minor.
I would say, if that's the case, could we get an email, Kathy, include Michelle and
Yep.
myself? Send something to at least the chairman of the select board and, Bob Nunes,
yeah, I'm,
that basically states that time is of the essence because we've
Right.
gone on for a long time without
Right.
getting the housing production plan done. We're that close and it
I
just,
mean, should she forward the advice from the state?
Yes.
Cause that's who's also, you know,
yeah, I think that they should have that information too, so they make a educated
right, right.
decision based on how far along it is.
Right.
Has that been shared already or?
she should have
It's just, you
it.
know, environmental, reports for that could be costly, so they might wanna look at that. For that type of a site,
Well, that's what Serped's
Right.
feasibility study is doing.
right,
But I guess my question was, you have the same documentation Michelle has from Serped, the communication from Taylor that says all that?
I believe so.
Because I think that's what should be shared with Bob Nunes and
Yeah,
Brian and,
I think Brian was on it, but I can double check, I can resend it,
all right.
and I can get like a better answer.
So based on that, what action should we take tonight? I know we have possible vote, I mean, I think it'd be a vote
Pending.
subject to.
Yeah,
So I'll make a motion to approve the use of the, planning board Serped hours for the completion of the housing production plan, conditional upon the approval of the select board.
second.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
And for me to submit the application, I guess.
Along with the application being submitted. That's part of,
Okay.
Just the hours.
yeah. So just to restate the motion and, or amend, the motion is to approve the use of the Serped hours to do this feasibility study on locations chose for the requirements to meet the final hurdles on the housing production plan,
Mhm.
and then to be able to submit the housing production plan based on all that approval. And conditional upon the approval with the select board.
Okay.
So
Second.
that's the amended motion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So, and when, when do we think that this email will go out? Is this gonna happen tomorrow?
I can't say, cause I have an appointment in the morning, so I'm not sure when I'm gonna get into work. So if I have a chance, it kinda depend on what's there, so if not,
So should I send the email? Do you want me to forward it to?
I guess there's no problem with that, as long as, just include everybody we talked about, so Kathy's on it, and if there's additional information, and she needs to be in the loop, definitely. Kathy, while I'm working away here and everybody's doing stuff, the site plan approval, if I date this for 1/26, when you file it at Lil's office?
yeah. I said I'll be in late, I'm not sure when.
Hmm?
Said, like I said, I'll be in, but it will be late. Oh, yeah, 26th is tomorrow, that's fine.
Discuss, the update of the planning board rules and regulations. Kathy, you gave us a bunch of pages when you came in, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So Kathy printed us out, the entire packet of rules and regulations of the planning board. We've discussed this on a number of occasions that we need to do this. I figured if everybody left here, keep these. I'd like everybody to go through them and read through, for example, we talked about for site plan review. Now we have architectural standards. We need to add language in there for, building elevations be included in the applicant's submission for site plan review. A&R plans or subdivisions, we've changed the terminology from front yard circle to upland circle. No, it was upland circle, now it's front yard circle. So the rules and regs still reference upland circle, but, so that's, building commissioner says now the applicants need to actually apply for a waiver to do it right because of our rules and regs, but. So little things like that we need to go through. I'd like everybody to go through and work on trying to help clean up some of this stuff, and we'll come back to the next meeting and put some time into that. I would say pick a section, whether it's approval of plans, construction standards. Construction standards is probably a good one to look at, like the conditions that we did on site plan review. Break that down maybe into 2 or 3 sections with roadway work as well as commercial construction. We have a set of minutes from December 14th, 2023. Did everybody get a chance to review those? Anybody have any comments on them?
No, looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the December 14th, 2023 meeting minutes as drafted.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The whole thing.
Kathy, on this, the decision where the last page basically has the way it printed, do you want me to initial any of these, just so?
Oh, yeah, you can.
Under old business, we have, open space, residential design bylaw, open space comments, which I think, was something from the building commissioner. Are
No.
they in the packet you
Oh,
handed us tonight,
Yeah,
Kathy?
the new packet has, so these are just what I drafted from meeting with open space last week.
There you go. Yep.
Just that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
Michelle, would you mind going through and reading those?
Sure, yeah. So I met with open space last week, took some questions, comments, tried to answer some questions about OSRD bylaw, and one of the comments is to make sure that it's specified that an HOA is required with a deed restriction for the development. Because I know we talked about HOA for the open space, and I know Peter was very against that, so we had taken that out as an option, but I didn't get, I didn't see where exactly it was spelled out, so I think we do need to add some language to that effect. Then I had added a prohibited use section, and with the question, do we add these back in? Do we not? And they were on board with adding prohibited uses. They said, possibly tweak what it shows, but yes, you do want to have those prohibited uses because people will potentially abuse, if,
Well, if it's, like we always talk about, if it's not in writing,
right.
so I think that was one of the first things that we started to do when you and I looked at going back through that, was go back through the intent and purpose, and we found better language that was more
Representative of what Lakeville wants to do.
unsubjective too.
Right, right. So then under section D4, where it talks about the Native American significance, to add mass historical. So I have kind of worked through the OSRD draft, and have kind of made some of these edits. So I figure, I can send that around to planning board as well as Board of Health, because I think we'll be meeting with them next and they wanted to see any changes, revisions. F6, signage to be added to the open space allowed uses, and also to show where it ends. So like, for example, one of the members said that, she has a lot of land that people will come through, and unfortunately, people will take down the signs, and they don't really respect the property, so she felt like putting up some signs so that it's more obvious where the open space starts, where, as opposed to where it ends, and what is allowed specifically. So I thought that was good to note.
Show the boundaries.
Another question was, had we reached out to other towns to get input as to how OSRD has worked out for them? My comment back was, I think that probably depends on who you talk to in town. You know, you might be, you might speak to somebody and they say it's great, and somebody might say not so great. But I don't think it could hurt to just kind of look and do a little more research as far as what other towns similar to Lakeville, because we know we've seen some examples from Foxborough, but maybe some other similar towns to Lakeville. So I thought that was an interesting one that we should have something to go off of, because that question will probably come back up.
Yeah, because that example was from like somewhere else, right? Wasn't it like Georgia or North Carolina or something like that? They were showing the depiction of it, something like that. It was from like a different state altogether. But
Well, even the, the sample
Yeah.
that was gonna be presented at town meeting, it showed these really small lots as opposed to, Lakeville has large lots, so the residents own more land as opposed to now the town would own more of the land, or whatever entity. So one of the members also said, has there been input from the developers? I let them know that they have been calling, looking to use this. And then I had mentioned how the purple, I had those two items that I put in purple, about 20% of total lots have the frontage reduced to 50 feet, as well as planning board may reduce the required percentage of open space upland land to a minimum of 40%. And so I said that those purple items were something that we had talked about potentially tying it to an allowance based off of if they're gonna offer senior or affordable units. I know, Mark, you said senior more so than affordable, but they did think that was a good idea to give it for a reason.
And that's what you and I had talked about, was allowing maybe a little more relief on the open space if they add a senior component. That was the trade-off, right?
Right,
It
yep.
wasn't just an automatic. And
Right,
it was-
yeah, because it wasn't
There was some
really,
leverage there that benefited, the town
Benefited
would
the
get
town, yeah.
senior housing, and in turn would give up a little bit more of the open space for a
Right.
developer to do that.
because it said, if there were desirable features or something that wasn't really specific. So this would make it more specific. So,
Do you mind if we comment on some of these
Yeah,
things
go
while
for
we're
it.
going through?
yeah,
You had, input on
developers.
F6,
Oh,
the signage to be added to open space for allowed uses. So I guess, and again, me not critiquing as much as just I have that devil's advocate in me. What would the allowed uses be? And would we come up with like a standard or case by case? Because then it's sort of a subjective thing then, and we like to eliminate that as much as possible.
well, because everything is by special permit is gonna be, we don't even know what the use of open space will be. Will it just be untouched open space? Will it become a park? Will it be a playground? So we don't even know, so it's kind of hard to say what the signs should say up front. But definitely, maybe add some verbiage that,
I think we should almost have like 3 levels or three, if it's gonna be a playground type of park. We should have general uses that would suit a playground,
right,
but if it's gonna be just walking trails
right,
and a little parking area for some public access for people to go on a little short, a half mile or mile walk,
and we already know that we're gonna limit motorized.
maybe
So-
you just put some rules about dogs on leash, pick up your trash, whatever, sensible things for each use, but I think those rules should be tied to one of those options. Not just, you can't do a blanket and you just don't wanna leave it all out,
Okay,
but and I'm not trying to create more work as much as I know we've been told the more language you put in, the less people are gonna, but I think Lakeville pays attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, if it's well thought out and we do give our best effort on what the allowed uses on this variation of what the open space could be is, I think it, like I've heard people say, oh, the open space, somebody will come in and put a golf course for
Right.
profit. And like, no, that's not the intent.
Right.
But it's not even in there to do that.
Mhm.
Because that's not for public use, that's paid use for profit. So maybe because people think that, we have to have language in there to make it clear that that's not the purpose or intent or allowed.
Right.
So now I'm starting to think like maybe looking through the different sections, where it talks about what it may be used for. Adding something along the lines of, signs depicting such shall be included, something like that under each, rather than a general one, I don't know. But I think that could, like I said, I think it should be handled during the special permit portion of it, because it's gonna be depending
Yeah,
on.
but maybe there's rules and regs that aren't part of the bylaw, but rules and regs that we could tie to it, to at least give some parameters for what they would be,
So,
and then probably overthinking it,
under the dedicated open space, I would assume, because it says the uses.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, I guess I'll have to just put some more thought into it, and
Well,
maybe,
I'll
if
work
you
with
guys
on it.
have ideas too, send them.
Anybody else have any other comments on some of the comments from open space or how to approach that?
For that one, for the signage?
Well, any of them. You had said something about developers. I think you were expecting my comment to be on that.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna
So I
say
just
something
wanted,
else.
you had thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I don't know, have developers, like for the, I guess they haven't seen like any draft or anything like that, right?
No, but we know that somebody reached out, because remember Mark was trying to reduce it from 20 acres, because the developer called, asking to use it close to the water. So, at least that one, that's the only one, I know of, but I'm sure there's probably others.
So when's the next meeting? Is it Board of Health?
Yep, Board of Health. So my thought is to make some of these revisions, circulate another draft, and then go to Board of Health, do the same, come back with comments, and then see where we are at that point. I think we'll also have to look closer at those prohibited uses, make sure
Yeah.
those all sound how we want them to.
And just so you guys know, Michelle and I are gonna go to the Board of Health meeting on February 7th.
Oh, and I think we said that we were gonna have a quorum, so,
Joint meeting?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had that down. Was it Board of Health? I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about that last meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And just for the record, the next planning board scheduled meeting is Thursday, February 8th at 7 PM here at the Lakeville Police Station meeting room. Anything else we would probably come before the planning board tonight? What do you got, Kathy?
So you guys know that the select board had asked me to kind of take on the duties of that I was able to. So I kind of just been looking at different things that are kind of outstanding still, and ways that it could be better since he's gone. I know one thing that was a huge issue is communication. So
You
I'm
and I
gonna try
talked
to
about
get
this.
some communication going. And one idea that we had is to come up with a weekly email. So say every Wednesday, an email will go out to you. Anything that's going on, like a plan, so maybe if revised plans come in, or if comments come in, or if there's a working document, it can go out and be added to or changed. So everyone's kind of on the same page. So what would you like to see, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I think we touched on it when I was by the office the other day, that I think pretty much everything that comes through the planning board office should be circulated to the building commissioner. You know, just his eyes on it, I know it could probably become more email and paperwork than he needs to see, but certain things, you know, we definitely wanna keep him in the loop. He has, you know, great input, and he knows every regulation in town memorized, that we'll be looking for hours, and he'll see, so beneficial, so keep him in the loop. Anybody else?
I mean, that sounds like a good idea. No, are you talking about just circulating to planning board or?
Yes.
Okay. Cause I feel like, it's also good to kind of know where other, you know, committees, boards are as well. So I don't know if, I feel like that's something that could apply across the board. You know, every clerk can put something together and send it out to everybody. So everybody has like this update every week. That'd be awesome. So that it's not just living in a bubble. Here's planning board, here's board of health, here's open space, here's Concom. Like, I
Well,
think that'd be great.
I mean, I think that works good for projects that are going through all boards, but say people are in front of Concom, like, would you wanna know that?
Dock
No,
license?
Yeah.
no, but anything that's like,
Yeah.
91A
Yeah.
dock license?
not
I don't-
everything.
I'm on Concom and I don't wanna hear those.
Yeah.
So,
So-
as planning board, we certainly don't wanna hear,
But-
but I know
But
what
there's
you're
a
saying.
lot of things that overlap.
Agreed,
And not
agreed.
even
I mean-
just,
I mean-
I'm not saying every agenda item, I'm saying anything like, we have open space plan, we have housing production plan, I'm sure like Board of Health had regulations that recently passed, so like all those sort of things, I think that'd be great if, you know, each of the clerks could do
Well,
something like
so
that.
that's something I think that,
It could be an administrative nightmare.
moving
lot of work.
forward, I think something's gonna have to be discussed with, what happens with the planner position. And if we make that something, so it's a coordinator like that, that actually not really as much planner intent, but coordinator intent to still be part of that department and be the, sort of,
Yeah.
you know, Lorraine Carboni was that for a while, town coordinator. So she was like a liaison to every board, kind of going to all the meetings, so she could go to Concom and say, come back to the planning board and say, oh, this is going through there now, you'll see it soon, and
Mhm.
do you, almost like, you know, Kathy, when you do the ZBA stuff for us, that we can make a comment, maybe there's a position that we created, that may be input that we could give when, again, I went to the select board meeting, Kathy was there, probably over 3 weeks ago now, but, we had requested for him not to fill the planner position immediately and us to report back in a couple months, so I mean, that's gonna be really looking at 2 months where we probably, you know, maybe Kathy, that's something to put on our next agenda, it's just discussion about the needs of the planning board moving forward and, how to, what do I wanna say, call it, fill that role, or what positive portions of that role do we wanna keep, or whatever, just so we need to generate something to go back to the select board and say, this is what we need. I think that, that's already been discussed between some of the select board, and I know I talked to the building commissioner about it, that maybe discussions start to happen, so we wanna be in front of that for what we wanna see for support if we do fill that position with something. I don't think it should be, maybe not straight up planner, but something.
I mean, I think it's a good idea, rather than, I think from what I see, Kathy's got enough work as it is, and if she were to have to coordinate the collection of all the information.
It's
could be
kind of
a
my job already,
nice-
Jack. You know, just a little more involved now, but I've kind of been doing this. But having not really good communication myself, sometimes with Mark, it could be tough. It was getting better, but at first it was kind of difficult, so.
I have a copy of site plan review in my packet. Was that just part of the rules and regs
Yeah.
deal? Okay. So I'll keep those together. So I think that concludes our business here tonight. Would everybody agree?
Mhm.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.